Black
You're not getting on
CEO
this flight, you
told
hear
to
me?
wait
You're not going
outside.
anywhere.
Moments later,
I
she
need to see
shut
your
the
documents
whole
right
room
now.
down.
Give them to
Hello,
me.
everyone. Before
You
we
are
begin
missing it.
today's
You are
video,
not getting on this plane.
I
Step
need your
aside
help.
immediately. Watch your tone.
We've
I have
noticed
every
that
right
the
to be here.
channel is
They're
losing
targeting the 3 p.m.
traction,
flight.
and
Oh my
subscribing
God.
is one of
We
the
have to
best
stop it.
ways
Go,
you can
now.
help us.
On
It's
it.
quick, free,
You don't have
and
permission to
allows
record me.
us to continue bringing you great
isn't helping.
content.
Watch
Your
me.
support means
Watch me.
everything.
We need to secure the perimeter now.
Let's keep this channel
It's
growing
unstable. We have to
collectively.
get out of here.
Where are you watching from? Drop your
I am
city
ready to
or
begin.
country in the
The
comments
future
below.
of travel starts now.
Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. The airport terminal was calm until one voice sliced through it like broken glass. WAIT. OUTSIDE. The words exploded from the gate agent's mouth, sharp, public, intentional. Her fist tightened around a boarding pass she hadn't even checked properly. Her face, jaw-locked eyes, narrowed scarf knotted too tight, leaned forward as if proximity itself could humiliate the woman across from her. The woman was Zara King. She didn't flinch. Dressed in a clean white suit, minimal jewelry, no entourage, no noise, Zara stood still, breath steady, eyes steady. A black woman alone at a check-in counter, but carrying a presence that didn't need raising voices to fill a room. Behind the agent, 3 male staff in matching navy suits watched like a silent tribunal. Arms crossed. Brows tight. Already judging. One of them mouthed something to the others as the agent snapped the ticket between her fingers. "I'm tearing this," the agent hissed. "We don't have time for fake passengers." The ticket lifted in the air, caught halfway between paper and threat. People turned. A small circle formed. The sound of rolling suitcases slowed, like even the airport itself leaned in to listen. Zara finally lifted her chin. Her voice came low, smooth, cutting through the tension without force. "You haven't even scanned it." The agent scoffed, loud, dramatic, meant to shame her. "I don't need to." Step aside. REAL customers are boarding. A murmur rippled through the line. Camera phones rose discreetly. Energy in the terminal shifted, first confusion, then discomfort, then something darker. Zara's hand remained on her bag strap.
She inhaled once, deeply memorizing the moment, absorbing its shape.
She had lived this before. At 22 in Atlanta. At 28 in London. At 31 in Dubai. Each time dressed well, speaking calmly, never enough to escape assumption. But today wasn't one of those days. Today, someone else made the first misstep. Someone behind Zara, a young trainee in a crisp uniform, shook his head slightly. He knew. He'd scanned that ticket earlier. He saw her name. He recognized it. But fear glued him to the spot. And the agent pushed further. She lifted the ticket-high paper, trembling between her fingers. "This isn't your seat, and you know it. Now MOVE. Zara's eyes narrowed not with anger, but with clarity. Before the agent could rip the paper in two, Zara lifted her phone. Not to record. Not to threaten. To make a single call. Her thumb pressed one name. "Nia," she said quietly. "It's starting." The voice on the other end responded, "Instantly ready when you are, Mom." The agent blinked, confused, then scoffed again. But the crowd felt at first that subtle shift in energy, that slow tightening of the air, the sense that the woman in white wasn't just a passenger. She was something else entirely. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Zara. The gate agent froze for half a second when she heard that calm, controlled voice on Zara's phone. Not scared. Just irritated, like someone who hated losing the stage. "Put that away," she snapped, stepping closer. Her perfume hit first sharp, synthetic, aggressive. "Phones don't fix lies. Step back." Zara didn't move. Behind the counter, the male staff stiffened. The one in the middle, tall, slate-gray suit, hair slicked back with too much gel, leaned forward and whispered to the agent, "Just deny it and call security. She'll leave." But the trainee, the youngest of the three, winced. His eyes flickered to Zara with guilt. He'd scanned her ticket. He knew she was telling the truth. But fear wrapped around his throat like barbed wire. The agent, empowered by the backup behind her, lifted the half-torn ticket again. "Last warning, ma'am," she said, hitting that last word with venom. "Move aside or you're missing this flight." Her tone echoed across the terminal, bouncing between steel beams and blinking screens. Passengers paused mid-step. A couple halted their argument. A teenager lowered her headphones. Everyone could feel the humiliation soaking into the air. Zara kept her voice soft. "You still haven't scanned my pass." The agent barked a laugh, too loud, too performative. "Honey, I don't need to scan anything to know what's real." Zara's left eyebrow lifted by 1 millimeter. Not shock. Not anger. Recognition. She had heard that exact sentence before. Different airport, different face, same energy. 25 years old, buying her first business class ticket. The man at the counter said, "Let's be honest. Does this really belong to you?" She remembered the sting. She remembered sleeping on a bench after being re-evaluated. She promised herself something that night. Silence would never mean surrender again. Back in the present, the agent's voice cut through the memory. "Security is on the way." As if summoned, one of the male staff tapped a radio clipped to his belt. The other straightened, forming a wall behind the agent's shoulders, squared chins lifted united in their assumption. The trainee took a hesitant step forward. "Maybe we should just check no." It came from the agent, sharp as a slap. "You're new. Don't embarrass yourself." The trainee shrank back into silence. Zara watched him, not with pity but with understanding. Cowardice wasn't always chosen. Sometimes it was trained. Across the terminal, phones fully lifted now. Recording. Zooming. Capturing. The agent gestured at Zara's ticket again. Fake seat. Fake status. Fake story. She leaned in until their faces were a breath apart. And fake confidence. Zara didn't blink. Her voice dropped to a low, unshakable whisper, the kind that made even the air pause. "Confidence isn't fake. It's remembered." Just then, the radio on the agent's hip crackled to life. "Security approaching Gate 17. The agent smiled triumphant, mistaking the moment for victory. But the energy in the room shifted, subtle, invisible, unmistakable. It rippled outward from Zara like gravity resetting itself.
Something was coming.
Something the agent, the staff, the crowd, even the trainee weren't ready for. And Zara, she simply adjusted the sleeve of her white blazer and waited. Calm. Measured. Unmoved. The storm was walking toward Gate 17. But it wasn't coming for her. It was coming because of her. Security arrived in a wave of dark uniforms and clipped radios. 2 officers stepped through the crowd, one tall and stone-faced, the other younger, tense in the shoulders, like someone still learning how to stand confidently in chaos. Behind them, more passengers slowed, forming a loose semicircle around the unfolding scene. The gate agent straightened instantly, chin up the way small tyrants do when bigger authority walks in. "Officers," she announced loud enough to claim the narrative, "we have a non-compliant passenger refusing to leave the counter." The older guard badge reading MOSS didn't look at her. He looked at Zara. His gaze skimmed her white suit, her calm posture, her phone still in hand. No panic. No trembling. Just poise. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "we need to verify your boarding pass." Before Zara could speak, the agent cut in. "There is nothing to verify. I told you she's blocking real passengers with a fake ticket." Moss's eyes narrowed, not at Zara, but at the agent's tone. "Let me hear it from her," he said. A tiny ripple of discomfort crossed the agent's face, the first crack. Zara nodded once, then extended the half-torn ticket toward him. Her fingers were steady. The trainee watched from behind, throat-tight guilt written like ink across his features. He opened his mouth again, closed it, opened it. "And then finally, I scanned that ticket earlier," he blurted softly. "It went through. Green. Clean." The other 2 staff members snapped toward him. "Don't get involved. You're new." Stay in your lane. The young man swallowed breath unsteady, but the words were out, floating, hanging in the open like a flare fired into a dark sky. Moss turned to the agent. Is that true? She scoffed, almost choking on her own confidence. He's confused. Or lying. I don't know, but I know a fake when I see one. The younger guard glanced between them, unsure. The crowd murmured in irritation. Phones tilted closer. A woman near the front whispered, "Just scan it." What's the problem? Another added she hasn't raised her voice once. The agent snapped. She doesn't need to raise her voice to cause trouble. Zara finally spoke quiet but declamatory, like a spotlight turning on. You're escalating a problem you never checked. Moss reached for the scanner. The agent slapped her hand over it. A collective gasp hit the air. I said, it's fake, she barked, her voice cracking under its own weight. Moss stepped back, eyes sharpening. Ma'am, remove your hand. Now. Her face flushed red. Her hand stayed planted. Behind her, the trainee whispered barely audible, please just let him scan it. But the agent had crossed too far to retreat. Pride had locked her in place. Security and staff exchanged glances. Passengers leaned in. The terminal hummed louder, the kind of pressure that bends steel. Zara didn't move. She didn't argue. She didn't plead. She simply lowered her phone and said into the receiver, soft enough to sound personal but loud enough for the room to hear, Nia, we're moving to the next phase. The air tightened. Moss blinked. The agent frowned. The trainee straightened, and the crowd sensed it in their bones. Whatever this was, whatever she had just triggered, it wasn't for show. It was structure. It was preparation. It was a woman who had lived this moment before and rebuilt herself so she'd never fear it again. Gate C17 held its breath. Something unmistakable was about to break. But it wasn't Zara. It was the room itself. The moment Zara spoke the words next phase, something subtle shifted, not loud, not dramatic, just a tightening of the air, the way a room feels seconds before a storm rolls in. Moss noticed it first. A flicker of confusion crossed his face, quickly replaced by caution. The gate agent, however, mistook the shift for victory.
She stepped forward, arms folded like a shield.
Great, she snapped, call whoever you want. It won't change a fake ticket. From behind her, one of the male staff muttered, this is getting ridiculous.
She clearly doesn't belong in Zone 1.
The crowd reacted to that sharp, inhales exchanged looks, a few raised eyebrows. Zone 1. The phrase hit the air like a silent accusation. Zara turned her head slightly, eyes settling on him. Not angry, simply observing, as if documenting a piece of evidence. Her voice stayed calm. And what exactly makes you so certain of that? He opened his mouth, but the agent cut in again louder because it's obvious the line snapped like a live wire. A woman in a denim jacket stepped forward. Obvious how the agent ignored her. Moss didn't. He raised a hand, signaling for quiet, then took the torn ticket directly from Zara. The agent tried to intercept again. Officer, I already told you. You told me a lot, he interrupted, eyes firm. Now I'm doing my job. He lifted the scanner. The agent's jaw tightened. It is fake. Her words came out like bullets, each one louder than the last. The terminal's hum seemed to drop a pitch like the building itself was listening. Moss scanned. Beep, Pete. A red flash flickered, then green pulsed beneath it, faint glitching, then solid. The trainee gasped softly. The agent froze. The whole crowd leaned in. Zara didn't smile. She didn't even move. Moss glanced at the small device. Twice. Then again, then. It's valid. The agent's face drained color. That's impossible. Moss turned to her fully now. Is it, or did you tear her pass before checking it properly? The agent's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Passengers murmured loudly, now recording openly. I knew it. She just refused to scan it. That's not protocol. The agent's composure cracked.
The system must be malfunctioning.
Zara finally spoke again. The system isn't malfunctioning. Her voice carried a certain gravity, not loud, but felt. It's responding. The words slid through the terminal like a cold draft. The trainee blinked, realization blooming in his expression. The younger security officer shifted nervously, sensing weight beneath the calm. The agent scoffed, voice trembling now. Responding to WHA, Zara tilted her head slightly as if deciding how much truth the room was ready for. To phase 2, she said simply. At that moment, the monitor behind the counter flickered just once, just enough for everyone to notice. The agent spun around. But Zara wasn't touching anything. The system had moved on its own. Moss straightened, suddenly cautious. The agent's confidence crumbled, and the crowd kept filming. Zara stood silent in the center of it, unmoved, unshaken, perfectly composed. The storm was no longer approaching Gate 17. It had already arrived. The monitor's flicker wasn't loud, but it was enough to rattle the gate agent's spine. She spun back toward Zara, finger raised like a weapon. Stop whatever you're doing, you don't control our system. Zara didn't answer. She didn't need to, because the screen behind the counter flickered again, this time longer, brighter, and a thin line of text appeared at the bottom. SYSTEMVERIF, ICATIONCYNC. ING passengers whispered like wind through tall grass.
That didn't look normal.
Why did it say sinking? She didn't even touch anything. The agent's breathing quickened. Her voice shot out sharper than before. Everyone stepped back. She's manipulating the system. A few heads turned toward her, confused. Zara looked almost amused. You think I need to touch anything to make the truth appear? The agent slammed the counter with her palm. The sound cracked across Gate 17. Aye, said BCKOFF, and why are you? She jabbed a finger at Zara. You're done. I'm calling the airline director myself. Zara's eyelids lowered, not in fear, but in something that looked dangerously close to pity. Good, she said. Call him. The trainee stepped forward again, voice trembling but louder this time. Ma'am, maybe we should slow down. It's verifying her ticket right now. The agent wheeled on him. Do you WANT to lose your job that hit him hard? He shrank back, throat bobbing, but his eyes stayed locked on Zara like he knew she was the only person in the room telling the truth. Security Officer Moss moved closer. Agent, you need to let the scan finish. But she wasn't listening anymore. Her fear had mutated into something uglier. Something she'd clearly practiced. She stepped towards Zara until the gap between them vanished. People like you always think you can force your way into places you don't belong. A collective gasp rippled through the terminal. Even the male staff behind her stiffened. That sentence didn't just cross the line, it dug it up, snapped it in half, and threw it at her feet. Zara didn't step back. She didn't raise a hand. She didn't break. But inside, something old stirred a memory she had buried so deep she thought time had smoothed its edges. 17 years old, standing at a regional airport in the Carolinas, holding a scholarship letter that she fought for. The agent that day said the same words, people like you don't fly first. She'd flown coach, cried quietly the entire flight, promised herself she would never let a room shrink her again. Back in the present, her voice cut clean through the buzzing silence. Say it again. The agent blinked. What Zara's eyes were colder, now sharp, deliberate. Say what you just said.
Slowly.
So the room can hear it? Phones rose higher. Passengers leaned in. The agent's mouth opened, then shut. Her confidence faltered, suddenly aware of 50 witnesses recording every breath she took. Behind her, the monitor completed its verification with a soft tone BOARDINGPASSVALIDPRIORITY. CLARIENCEVIFIEISID. The agent's face collapsed. Moss exhaled quietly. The trainee whispered, "I told you," but the agent refused to yield. She grabbed the torn ticket and threw it back at Zara. The system made a mistake. I didn't. Zara caught the paper midair. Her hand didn't even shake. "Yeah," she said softly, "you did." And for the first time since the confrontation began, the room wasn't on the agent's side anymore. It was on Zara's. The breaking point had arrived, and the next phase was already unfolding. The torn ticket rested in Zara's hand like a verdict. She smoothed the crease gently, almost ceremonially, then slipped it into her blazer pocket as if archiving evidence for later use. The agent watched, chest heaving, still clinging to the last strands of control. But control was no longer hers. Zara lifted her phone again, slow, precise, deliberate. One tap, then another. "Nia," she said, voice calm enough to unsettle the entire gate. "Initiate Phase 3. There was no hesitation on the other end.
Confirmed, ma'am.
Phase 3 launching now. The agent barked a laugh, brittle and cracking. "What are you hacking us, threatening us? This is ridiculous." But before she could say more, the monitor behind her flickered again, harder this time. Not a glitch. A command. Lines of text appeared. CCESLOGREVIEWPULINGST passengers gasp. The younger security guard whispered, "That's not normal protocol." Moss stepped closer to the screen, brow furrowed. "I've never seen this interface." The agent spun around, voice breaking at the edges. "Why is it pulling my logs? Turn that off," but she couldn't. The system wasn't listening to her anymore. Behind her, two of the male staff shifted uneasily. The trainee swallowed hard, eyes wide, as the truth unraveled on the screen he'd seen 100 times, but never like this. The digital audit continued at GENTCONDUCT6PRIORCOMPLAINTSST at TUSUNRASOLVD ECALATIONRE QUIRIAEDA chill rippled through Gate 17. The crowd murmured louder now, not outrage, but realization. She's been doing this to other passengers. 6 complaints, that's a pattern. No wonder she didn't want the scan. The agent snapped, voice trembling. "This is NOT, accurate. Someone is tampering with the system." Zara finally met her eyes. The system isn't being tampered with. It's being watched. The agent froze like the words themselves grabbed her by the collar. Watched by who? Zara didn't answer. She let the silence do the work. Instead, she turned to Moss. "Officer, I'd like the scan repeated with your device." Moss nodded immediately. The agent lunged to stop him, but one look from him halted her in place. Beep. Green again.
Solid.
Undeniable. He exhaled. "The boarding pass is valid. Priority level valid." The crowd reacted in a wave, tiny cheers, whispers of finally a few people shaking their heads at the absurdity of it all. The trainee's shoulders dropped with relief. The agent, cornered by truth, lashed out. "She STILL doesn't belong in this line. Look at her. She stopped herself too late. Phones caught it." Every face in the terminal registered the same thing. The quiet part had been said out loud. Zara lowered her phone, her tone steady as stone. "Phase 4 is authorized." Nia's voice came through, instantly crisp and composed, understood. "Internal oversight is dialed in. Keep your line open." The monitor blinked again, not chaotic, not random, structured. Intentional. Zara clasped her hands in front of her blazer posture, straight shoulders relaxed. The agent stumbled back a step. For the first time since this began, she looked afraid. Not of Zara's voice. Not of the crowd. But of the quiet power tightening around her, invisible and undeniable. The room had shifted. And the system was shifting with it. Zara hadn't raised her voice once. But she had turned the tide. And Gate C17 was no longer hers to fight for. It was hers to lead. The gate agent stumbled backward as the monitor shifted again, this time displaying something none of them expected: PRIORIT, YMANIFESTCHEICKEEXCCACLAAAEASERANCEPSEU The crowd hushed. Even the conveyor belt behind them seemed to slow. The male staff exchanged uncertain glances. The trainee looked like he was trying to swallow his heart back into his chest. Moss straightened one hand, inching subconsciously toward his radio, not out of threat, but out of caution. The agent shook her head violently. No. No. Executive clearance, that's impossible. She's nobody. Her voice cracked on the last word. Zara's eyes flicked toward her, not angry, not triumphant, simply aware. Like someone watching a door unlock exactly when she expected it to. You keep saying that, Zara replied softly. And every time the system disagrees with you. It wasn't loud, but it hit like a dropped mic. A passenger near the front whispered she's somebody. Look at how calm she is. Another murmured executives don't lose composure. Normal people would be screaming by now. The agent snapped, her voice climbing into panic. This doesn't prove anything. Anyone can glitch the system. Zara lifted a single eyebrow. Anyone, her tone wasn't mocking. It was surgical. The younger security guard whispered to Moss, sir, the system doesn't do manual overrides like this unless corporate is watching. Moss's jaw tightened. The agent heard it too. Her face drained. Her bravado thinned. She tried to recover, pointing at Zara with a trembling hand. She's bluffing. She has to be bluffing. Zara stepped closer, just one step slow, deliberate enough to make the space between them feel colder. If I were bluffing, she said, her voice smooth as polished stone, you would won already. A ripple moved through the terminal. One of the male staff exhaled sharply, almost involuntarily. The trainee pressed a hand to his mouth like he'd just realized who might be standing in front of him. The agent's eyes darted from Zara to the monitor to Moss to the phones filming her every breath. Zara added barely above a whisper, ask yourself why the system is sinking. The agent swallowed hard. WY Zara held her gaze. Because it recognizes someone in this line, and it isn't you. The crowd erupted, soft gasps, clicks of recording phones murmured, oh my God, and she's done for. Zara stepped back, folding her hands calmly behind her. She had planted the seed. Not a reveal. Not yet, that. Just enough truth for the room to feel the floor shifting beneath their feet. And the agent, she wasn't fighting a passenger anymore. She was fighting gravity. The word gravity might as well have been written across the terminal ceiling because everything at Gate C17 suddenly leaned toward Zara. The energy, the focus, the fear. The monitor behind the counter flickered a final time, then locked into a new screen. INTERNALRAV, IEWMODIACTIVERSIGHTCONNSETEAONLIVE LOG YANGOIDOLAAILAIE UCLADIEO parted soundless as if she'd just witnessed her own career step off a cliff. One of the male staff whispered this can't be happening during a regular check-in, but it was. And it wasn't regular. The younger security guard took a small step back, instinctively distancing himself from the agent. Moss didn't move, just watched, eyes narrowing with the cool knowing of a man who'd seen collapses before. The agent tried to salvage control. Oh, right. YONESTOPRICING phones away, her voice cracked. No one listened. A passenger in a blue hoodie muttered, you didn't care about phones until they proved you wrong. Another added 6 complaints, she's been doing this for years. The agent spun in circles, trapped by witnesses. Stop filming. Stop it. Zara didn't say a word. Her silence pushed harder than any shouted command. The trainee stepped forward again, this time not timid, not unsure. I saw her name in the system this morning. His voice steadied. Priority manifest. High-level tag. You ignored it. The agent recoiled. You lying little enough. It was Moss's voice, calm, authoritative, absolute. A single word that froze the entire counter. He turned fully to the agent. You've escalated, obstructed verification, tampered with procedure, and targeted a passenger without evidence. Gasps rippled across the gate. The agent floundered. She doesn't look like she caught herself too late. Phones caught it perfectly. Zara finally spoke, her tone soft but edged with inevitability. This is the part where accountability begins. The agent took a step back. The trainee took a step forward. The crowd closed in. And the monitor delivered the final blow, AGENTACCESSTEMPORARILYLO. CKEDRASONINTERNALOVERARSIGHT, INTEERVDANTIO, and the agent's badge beeped red on her lanyard. Red, red, red. A visual siren for everyone watching. Her breath hitched. No, no. Ismail, one of the male staff, tried to swipe his ID to override. Red. The second tried. Red did. The trainee swallowed, then tried his badge green. The crowd murmured loudly. He stepped aside instantly as if the privilege burned his hand. Now every pair of eyes, staff, security, passengers, turned toward Zara. The agent stuttered, "W, what is happening?" Zara stepped forward, hands clasped behind her posture, calm, unshaken. Her voice landed like a verdict: the system is choosing who it believes. And for the first time since the confrontation began, everyone finally understood this wasn't just a dispute. It was a collapse. Silence snapped across Gate C17 like someone had cut the power. Not one suitcase rolled. Not one announcement echoed. The entire terminal seemed to lean in, waiting for Zara to breathe next. The agent stood trembling, fingers curled around her useless badge. Her eyes darted between the locked screen behind her, the crowd filming, and the woman in white who hadn't raised her voice not once. "This is some kind of trick," the agent stammered. "You're manipulating the system." "You have to be." Zara stepped closer, not threatening, but inevitable. "If I were manipulating the system," she said softly, "your badge would still work." Gasps rippled. The trainee's eyes widened. Even Moss's composure shifted just barely. The agent shook her head violently. "NOI don't believe this." "Who do you think you are, Zara?" glanced at Moss. "Officer, may I borrow your radio?" Moss hesitated only a second before handing it over. The agent made a small choking sound, as if she knew something irreversible was coming. Zara pressed the side button. "Nia." Instant response. "Yes, ma'am. Oversight is fully connected. You may proceed." Zara lifted the radio slightly, letting the room hear every syllable. "Patch Gate C17 into the executive channel." A pause. Then done. Her voice now echoed faintly from the monitor behind the counter. The agent froze. Zara's posture remained steady, almost serene. "Good, good. Please confirm my identity for internal review." A beat. Then the screen behind the counter shifted. One line of text appeared, first white on black: VERIF, YINGAXACUTIV. The agent stumbled back until she hit the counter. The crowd inched forward. And then the monitor flashed: ZARAKINGCHIAFAXACUT. IVEOFFICERAFARICOOBLAIRLNESPRIOR IIATYOWNNRLEV. Gasps. Shouts. Phones whipping up. People covering their mouths. The trainee nearly dropped his badge. The younger security guard whispered, "Oh, my God." Moss closed his eyes briefly, a man recognizing the magnitude of the moment. The agent choked on a breath. CEO, no. No. That can't you, your clothes, your ticket. Zara met her eyes with a calm so sharp it felt like glass. You didn't judge my ticket. A pause. You judged me. A collective rolled through the crowd. Zara handed the radio back to Moss gently. Thank you, officer. Then she faced the agent fully. You tore the boarding pass of the woman who runs this airline. The agent's knees bent, only instinct kept her from collapsing. Zara didn't gloat,
Didn't smile.
didn't raise her voice. She simply delivered the truth. And now we move to accountability. Gate C17 didn't just shift, it bowed. The moment the words "we move to accountability" left Zara's lips, the atmosphere shifted again, this time not like a storm breaking, but like a courtroom coming to order. The agent stood, frozen palms damp, badge blinking red against her chest like a confession she couldn't hide. Moss lifted his radio. Dispatch, confirm executive directive at Gate 17. Static. Then a crystal clear reply confirmed. Executive authority active. Proceed with internal removal protocol. A loud involuntary rolled through the passengers. The agent shook her head, breath sharp and panicked. Our removal, you can't remove me. I'm the lead at this gate. Zara's expression didn't change. Not anymore. Moss stepped forward, voice calm but absolute. Ma'am, your access has been suspended pending investigation. Please hand over your badge. The agent clutched it like it was the last thread holding her to earth. No, this is a misunderstanding. I didn't KNOW who she was, Zara responded gently. Respect shouldn't depend on knowing who someone is. The line hit the room harder than any revelation so far. The trainee swallowed, eyes shining, not with fear now, but with vindication. The younger security guard nodded subtly, almost relieved someone had finally said it. The agent looked around for support, but the other two male staff stepped back, putting distance between themselves and her sinking ship. Please, she whispered to Moss, voice thin, don't take my badge. But he extended his hand anyway. Shaking, she placed the badge into his palm. BP. It powered down instantly. Passengers exhaled. Some recorded. Some murmured finally. Zara watched the exchange with steady composure, then addressed the remaining staff. The investigation will review every decision made at this gate today. Eyes widened. The trainee straightened. The other two staff stared at the floor. Zara continued, those who followed policy will remain. Those who didn't won't. No threats. No heat. Just structure. Just truth. The agent, now badge less, whispered through trembling lips. What happens to me now? Zara glanced toward the monitor as it refreshed a GENTST, a TUSREMOVEADFROMDE, UTYECORTIREQ, UQUUIRED. She answered softly, and then you'll have to explain your choices. Gate C17 was silent. Not from fear, but from justice settling into the room like a new kind of gravity. Gate C17 felt different now, not hostile, not chaotic, but aligned. For the first time since the confrontation began, the tension wasn't pointed at Zara. It was pointed away from her toward the agent, now standing badge-less and trembling in front of 100 watching eyes. The passengers shifted, forming a kind of unspoken barrier around Zara. Not because she needed protection, but because the room finally knew who needed correcting. The woman in the denim jacket from earlier stepped forward. I watched everything she said, raising her phone. She tried to stop the scan. Multiple times. A man holding a suitcase added, and she kept escalating. Even after security showed up. That's not policy. The trainee finally found his voice, steady, confident in a way he hadn't allowed himself before. She ignored the manifest tag. I saw Ms. King's name. I hesitated because he glanced at Zara, then straightened his shoulders. Because I was afraid of her. That admission broke something open. Passengers nodded knowingly. Someone murmured, "We all saw the dynamic." Another whispered, "This isn't new, just finally recorded." The younger security guard stepped closer to Moss. "Sir, I'd like to add a statement. For the report." Moss nodded. The guard continued, "From the moment we arrived, Ms. King was compliant."
Calm.
She asked for verification. The agent prevented it. The agent flinched like each sentence was a stone thrown at her. That's not how it happened, but the crowd cut her off, not with shouting, but with truth stacking on truth. "We heard you. We saw how you spoke to her. You singled her out." A mother with 2 children stepped forward. "My kids asked me why you were yelling at her. I didn't have a good answer." The agent squeezed her eyes shut as if wishing the world would rewind itself. But it didn't. It wouldn't. Zara finally addressed the crowd, not with authority, but with grace. "Thank you. All of you. Your voices matter." People straightened, almost proud. Being acknowledged by the CEO of an airline wasn't something anyone expected when they walked into the airport that morning. A man in a business suit spoke up from the back. "Mom, I've flown this airline for 12 years. I've never seen someone handle disrespect the way you just did." The compliment wasn't loud, but it resonated through the room like a tuning fork. The agent looked between the faces, the disappointment, the certainty, the undeniable truth, and whatever fight she had left drained out of her. She turned to Zara, voice barely holding together. You're really the CEO." Zara held her gaze. "I am. And I was also a passenger you dismissed." Silence fell again, a quieter one, softer, reverent. The crowd wasn't reacting to the title anymore. They were reacting to the dignity. Moss stepped beside Zara. "Ma'am, the area is clear. Would you like to proceed to boarding?" Zara gave a small nod. "Yes, Sess. But there's one final step." The room leaned in. Something unfinished still hung in the air, a truth that needed to be spoken before justice could fully settle into Gate 17. Zara stepped forward into the open space the crowd had formed for her, not a path of fear, but of respect. The former gate agent stood off to the side, now silent badge, less surrounded not by authority, but by the undeniable consequences of her own decisions. Moss waited. The passengers waited. Even the terminal announcements seemed to pause, giving the moment a kind of sacred stillness. Zara turned toward the crowd, her voice low but carrying effortlessly. "I want to be very clear," she began. "This isn't about a title, and it isn't about power." A few passengers nodded slowly. She held up the torn boarding pass, the paper that had started everything. "It's about the difference between procedure and prejudice." Murmurs rippled across the gate. Zara continued, tone steady, deliberate. "Every passenger deserves respect. Not because of what they own. Not because of where they sit, but because they are human." The words settled over the room like falling ash, soft, inevitable, unforgettable. She lowered the ticket. Today wasn't about catching someone doing the wrong thing. It was about making sure this doesn't happen to the next person standing here who might not have the voice or the platform to fight back. The trainee's eyes glistened. A mother hugged her daughter a little closer. The guy in the denim hoodie whispered, "That's leadership." Zara stepped closer to the agent, not threatening but resolute. "Accountability isn't cruelty," she said quietly. "It's correction. So the next person gets treated better than I was." The agent swallowed, unable to speak. Zara turned back to Moss. "Thank you for stepping in with integrity." Moss dipped his head, a gesture of respect few COs ever earned. Zara then addressed the entire gate. "I didn't raise my voice today." She paused, letting the truth land. "I raised the standard." A wave rolled through the terminal, gasps, murmurs, a few spontaneous claps that grew into steady applause. Not loud, not wild, but grateful. Zara nodded once, accepting the moment, then stepped toward the boarding lane as the trainee hurried forward to scan her pass with trembling hands. Green. Bright. Clear. Unquestioned. She walked down the jet bridge with the calm stride of a woman who didn't need to announce her power. The room behind her wasn't just quiet. It was changed.